And we're live. Hello, world. We're doing office hours today. This is the 2nd of September. Can't believe we're already in September of 2022, but here we are. So let me just get things rolling. If you've never been to office hours before, let me explain. This is your opportunity to ask me questions. And throughout the week, I get lots of questions from people about various programming related topics or career related topics. And I find it much easier to just answer them all at once. And in this format where we can, maybe other people can benefit from the answers. And so that is the idea here. You can ask questions in the Discord. I have this channel called KCD Office Hours. Where you can just paste your questions and then I'll answer that on the live stream. And the YouTube URL will preserve that forever. So you can go watch it later, or you can join the Zoom call and ask your question in Zoom. I do my best to answer your questions, but I'm not always the right person to answer, and I'll normally tell you that. I'm not just going to give you opinions based on nothing. So yeah, that is basically it. And I think, yeah, I think that's all I have to say. So, anybody in the Zoom call right now have a question that they want to start us out with?
Hey Kent, this is Bharti.
Hi.
Hi. So I just have a question on like how to differentiate between render and commit. So I just posted the question just few minutes back. Yeah, that one under Fibula. Yeah. So I just wanted to know, like from the dev tools, like how do we identify differentiate between actual render and React commit? And would
Yeah.
it cause any performance issue if without any visual changes to the UI if we re-render the same component multiple times? So that's it.
Yeah, great question. So first of all, for folks who may not be aware, the way that actually, let's see, I've got a kind of a visualization of this React hooks, I think. So there's the React hook flow thing. That's not actually what I'm looking for. Let's see. I think we go to the exercises. That is not it. Nope. Shoot. Maybe it's in fundamentals. Let's just go. It's not going to be that one. Probably not any of these, actually. Okay, just give me a second to look for this. Nope. Actually, commit would probably be a better one. Nope. Let's try. Actually, let's commit. Try 3. Just give me a second, and if I can't find it, it might be in the advanced hooks one. So just, I think this will be relevant for folks. Exercise 6 maybe. And I don't think there's a 7 in this one. Yeah, but if we go to advanced, no. Okay, if it's not in this one, then I have no idea what I'm looking for. So I'll just explain it. But I normally like to pair my answers with some extra material. That's not in here. Yeah, that's not. Dang it! I wonder where I put that. Anyway, the life cycle of a React component is it starts with the render phase. So React will you say React DOM.render or create root and then hydrate or whatever. In any case, it's going to call your function component. Should probably have like an example, at least some code or something. Let's see. This one will work. Maybe we'll do the final version. Okay, so we've got this component. The first phase, it's going to call this function. That's called the render phase. You're scheduling your use effects, you're initializing state, creating event handlers, all of that stuff during that phase. When you return the JSX, that is still the render phase. You are creating React elements that React will then use in the next phase, which is the commit phase. And so it says, well, here's all the React elements they want. So let me create DOM elements and commit those to the DOM. That's where the actual update takes place. Then there's a bunch of other things that go on with regard to use effect, but that's not of particular note or interest right now. So then when there's a state update, for example, in this case, if I were to click on one of these and we say select square, and then we're going through here, we're doing this state update, that's going to trigger a re-render. So it goes through the phase again. So it starts with the render phase, and then it goes into this commit phase. But actually on that second render, there's another little step that happens between the render and the commit. And that step is called the diff phase, or it's where we take the previous elements that we had, because React creates DOM nodes and everything, updates the DOM, but it's actually going to hang on to the JSX elements, the React elements that we gave it to the last time. And then when we do the new render phase, it gets the new React elements. And now it does a diff comparison to see, what changed here. In our case, it will just be that one of these buttons gets updated to an X or an O or whatever. This is tic-tac-toe. So it'll say, oh, everything is the same except for this one thing. So instead of creating a bunch of new DOM nodes, I'm going to just create have some code that will update the existing DOM nodes in the minimal amount possible to make the DOM represent the new React elements that were created. So now you have that diff phase, and that's going to happen until finally this component is unmounted and React is like, oh, that component's gone now. I'll remove all DOM nodes that were associated to that component. So the question that you are asking me is well, here, hold on. The question is specifically how to differentiate between them in the React DevTools. I actually don't know whether there's a way to differentiate between them in the DevTools, but let's not profiler. We're looking for components. Actually, maybe we are looking at the profiler. So if I go click this, click that, and stop profiling, each one of these bars here, actually, let's do a couple. Change. Okay, so each one of these bars represents a commit. So it does not include a render. This is just when something was committed. Now, I should say, if we we'll have like a force re-render, React use reducer, and actually, yeah, 0. There we go. Hold on a second, I got that wrong. I haven't used reducer in such a long time. This is what happens when you start using what am I thinking of? Remix. Why was it hard for me to think of that? Okay, yeah, so we've got our reducer, we have our initializer arg, and the initializer. I'm pretty sure there's an easier way to do this. I've definitely written that many times, but I cannot for the life of me think of, well, what it would be. So on click, and we'll just say force re-render. Boom, re-render. Okay, so this clicking this re-render button will trigger a re-render because the state is updating, but it will not change anything in the DOM. Okay, so that will be interesting. We click this a couple times, you'll see the re-renders happening, and then we click this. We are getting a commit, or what looks like a commit at each one of these spots, but the DOM actually was not updated. So as far as the DevTools are concerned, this is technically a commit, and I believe the reason for that is because in React, a commit isn't just whether it updates to the DOM, but also when it commits the state change, I think. That may be why. But in any case, we know that there's no DOM changes here, and we can actually visualize that by looking at this. And every time you click this, nothing's happening in here as far as the DOM is concerned. If you click this, then you're getting that flash of update. And in fact, you could go even further and say, add a break on subtree modifications, or break on attribute modifications, or node removal. So like, we will get a breakpoint anytime anything changes. Nothing's changing here. I click on this and we get a breakpoint. This is in the React source code. So there you go, commit text update. So long story short, I do not believe that there is a way to tell in the React DevTools or to distinguish between, oh, that's interesting. How fun. I don't remember ever seeing that. I don't think there's a way to distinguish between a commit and a render. It calls it commit information, but these are really just renders. As far as like what the core of your question, what you're trying to get at, you were asking about the performance implications of the fact that let's see, our layout, we've got the header and the footer, those two components will never change. And so is it a problem that these are going to re-render? No, it's not. I would, there are very specific situations where unnecessary re-renders are a problem. But there is a blog post that I've got for you. And it is titled, Fix the Slow Render Before You Fix the Re-Render. I'm gonna just respond here so you can look at that. So yeah, long before you start worrying about optimizing these re-renders, you should be thinking about like, what is it about this that makes this really slow? Now, just for funsies here, we are in development mode. So like anytime you're measuring performance, you should be measuring the as close to production as possible. Because React does a silly amount of stuff to make our developer experience better in development mode. And then when you build it, it like removes all of that behavior. So anyway, if I throttle down to a 6x slowdown in development mode, and I hit record and hit re-render, so literally no change to the DOM, you'll always ignore this first bit. I think the browser is like weird and says that's, I don't even know what that was. So we ignore that. That wasn't what we did. And right here, let's see, where's the, yeah, that is the click. So there's probably the key down here. Let's look at the flame graph. So right here, we've got the mouse down. Here's a focus in. So something happened on focus. I'm not sure that it actually could be some code sandbox stuff going on there. But again, we're on a 6x slowdown. This thing took 2 milliseconds, 2.5. That's fine. This mouse down took 3 milliseconds. That's fine. Anything longer than 16 milliseconds will cause thrashing. You need everything to be within 16 milliseconds so that you can have the 60 frames a second is what you're targeting. So yeah, no problem here. Again, in development mode on a 6x slowdown. This one was 35 milliseconds to handle that click. But again, on in development mode on a 6x slowdown, we probably don't have a performance problem here. You could go and double check, like, let's make sure that the production build is much faster, and it will be much faster. But this will not be your bottleneck. I guarantee you have other things that are a bigger problem than this. However, I should say that that render diff commit cycle is the thing that other competing frameworks are optimizing right now. What they're trying to focus on is make it so that you don't have the diff phase. So there's no VDOM, and instead either the compiler just like takes your code and turns it into the minimal DOM updates that need to happen. That's what Svelte is doing. Or you're using these signals thing. I still don't quite understand how Solid.js is doing what it's doing, but yeah, Solid is also getting rid of the VDOM and the diffing phase. And in addition to that, it's also getting rid of the render phase as well. So it doesn't have to call your your functions every single time. That comes with its own set of trade-offs, but that's, I believe, what they're doing to make things a lot faster. And then quick is doing a whole different thing altogether. I'm not even sure that's kind of, they're optimizing the hydration phase, which frankly is interesting, but I don't think totally necessary personally. And actually, as an example, well, yeah, anyway. So to answer your question, you're probably fine. Really make sure that you understand why things are slow before you start optimizing them, and make sure you measure before as well. Okay, there you go. Thanks for the question. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, definitely again. Thank you so much for answering that. It was really wonderful. Thank you.
Totally. All right. Who's next?
All right. Hi, Kent. So
Hi.
This is Alex. I have a question. I believe it's like third from the bottom.
Oh, I think I just saw it. There it is.
That's one. Yeah, correct.
Okay, I'll take a look at the question. You can fill in any context that I may be missing.
Thanks.
Okay, so you've got an internal UI library based on a design system. You have a tree component, two aspects that you have questions about: keyboard navigation, focus management, and selection state. So you've got descendants context and use descendant. That actually sounds very similar to what Reach UI is doing. They have the descendant stuff that is outside of my realm of expertise. I've never worked in that code base before, but if I were doing this, I'm guessing you either already have referenced it, or it would be a good thing for you to reference if you have questions about it.
Mm-hmm.
So how to register index tree nodes. Yep, I've done something similar to that in the past. Used material UI, then key down handler to decrease the focus index stored in the state. Okay, concerned about performance and the fact that each item, yep, that is definitely could be a concern. Yeah, okay. Just using key down handler and simply search the actual DOM. That's actually what I ended up doing in downshift. I just went straight to DOM. And I did something similar to this at first with downshift, and then moved to this, not just for performance reasons, but also I thought it was a little more straightforward personally. Yeah, so this I'm guessing this is the DOM solution. Yeah, okay, cool. Here,
this is context solution. Yeah, I just got some stuff from Material UI and implemented it. So yeah, basically you see that it's like I used your hook to render the number of renders, and you see every time you like expand, because the new items are inserted not at the end, in the middle. So basically each item shifts, right? So basically everything is going to be rendered. So that's like one thing I'm concerned about that.
Yeah.
Aside from the focus management. But I guess probably there is no real way to avoid that, because I mean, we're inserting the nodes in the middle, right? Unless there's.
I wonder, this is probably not what you, yeah, it won't be what you want. Yeah, let's see. Okay, let me look at what you did first. Okay, so you have a descendant provider, and then you've got items, and the item will register itself. Is that how that works?
Right, correct. Yeah. Using use descendant hook.
Got it. I'm not saying the, oh, there it is. Okay.
Yeah.
And then your descendant has a function that returns information about itself, or it's a,
yeah, I mean, it's memo.
Yeah, got it. Okay.
Yeah, basically what it does, it goes to the context and it says like, register me, add me to the array, give me an index. I mean, so basically from 0 to like 9. And when you expand an item, for example, number 2, then because there are new children, so these 3 items being registered and they added right after number 2. So basically they like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that it's easy to navigate them. But I mean, this, as you see, like comes with the trade-offs because you have to manage all this stuff. And I was thinking that maybe just using the DOM, just going straight to the DOM for the focus and management, that would be easier. So, but
Yeah,
I guess you.
You only need to know what the next and previous DOM node should be.
Right.
So you need to know the current actively focused one. Like, so this is, let's say I press a down key. All you need to know is what is currently actively focused, which you get from the DOM.
Right.
And then what the next one will be, which you could get from data attributes in the DOM or something. That's probably what I would do. Let's see, there was something else I was going to mention about that though. So downshift had a very similar problem, and I don't think that's what I did. What I did actually resembles a little bit what you're talking about here. This is the old class downshift. So the hook may have changed in how it does this, but and I didn't build the hook. That was I moved on before that. But what I did is in my render, I did what you probably aren't supposed to do, but it actually does work, so it's fine. And I just I clear, so I keep track of all of the items, and then at the start of the render, I clear all the items, and then when every get item props. So when every each item gets rendered, they call this get item props, and they add themselves to that list of items. So that by just by the way that it works, I am re-rendering every single item on every state change. And that is intentional. If you were to try and memoize one of those or something, or memoize the menu or something like that, you probably wouldn't be able to, because like all the things you depend on would change every render anyway. But but yeah, it wouldn't work. We need to call this get item props for every single item. Otherwise, the registration doesn't work. And the reason that I did that is because I use this update. Oh, right. Yeah, I use that for the accessibility status messages.
Right.
I also have the item count. I can't remember what the get item count does. Yeah, when you hit enter, I use it to know which item is currently highlighted. So I have the highlighted index, but I need to associate that to the whatever data. Yeah. So it's not the node, but it's the data that node represents.
Got it.
Yeah. So I wonder if you should be able to avoid this by going with just data attributes on the DOM nodes. And so when they hit the space bar, you know what the currently active index is. You can get the data attribute, and if you need to map that to some JavaScript object that they have or something, you can just say, hey, you need to give me an ID, and then I'll just tell you the ID of the element that was selected or whatever. And they can respond, or they can look that up in their own map of the items. It's probably a better way to do what I did in downshift anyway. Anyway, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think pretty much, because as you mentioned, we cannot really avoid like re-rendering every items if we're using this approach, right? Because for every state change, we are still gonna re-render like every item. So
yeah.
And yeah, the other part was, I mean, it's simpler. I'm not really sure if that's a real question anyway. So yeah, the selection state, probably I will reach out for either context or something like that. Because like, for example, when you expand like an item, so that's one thing. But then when you select or you multi-select, I haven't implemented it here, but because I mean, it's still far away. I was thinking that we have a requirement for the item is selected, the parents should be also highlighted, right? So basically, so we have to figure that out somehow as well. I guess context will be the best way to do that. Unless you have like any suggestions, maybe just out of your head.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're just talking about it needs to visually look like it's selected, right? So
Right.
there's the new CSS feature called has, which allows like the parent selector.
Right.
But I'm guessing you need to support, browsers that don't support that feature. So that's a shame.
Correct. Yeah, true.
But you may be able to still just do that in the DOM though. Yeah, I think you should be able to, like, when it's selected, you'd say, okay, go ahead and add some data attribute or class or something that says I'm selected. And also, parent dot or node dot find. Is that what it's called? What is that API called?
I remember there's like a parent element or something like that, but
yeah,
I'm not sure if there is a function.
Parent or find. No, huh. No, there's a way to like look up the closest parent. Closest, that's what it is. So you look for the closest of whatever selector is, so the parent or whatever, and then you could just tack on the data property there. The challenge with doing these DOM mutations is making sure that you keep them up to date as things go.
Yes.
But I think that you should be able to manage that. Yeah, that's probably the direction I would pursue to get started.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I think one other really hacky way I was thinking about implementing that is like when you select a child, then you would have like CSS variables that represent your parent style. And then you would like, based on the parent ID, you would like update the CSS variable and that would like somehow propagate. I tried that. It worked, but yeah, I mean, it's really hacky.
Yeah. Try this DOM approach. That's what I would try. And then if that doesn't work, then like context exists for a reason. Maybe that's okay. Right. And if you're worried about performance, there's the they renamed it. What is it called? It's what Redux and everybody else is using. No, I want. Yeah, use sync external store. So you could have an external store that's responsible for keeping track of all of this. And the benefit of that is that only the components that care about the change will get re-rendered.
Unless like context, yeah.
Other than context where all children who are consumers will get re-rendered. So I would only reach for that if I identified a real situation where this was a performance problem. But it might be with a very like significantly sized tree with significantly complex components that it's rendering. Yeah, it could be a performance problem. So this might be something to reach for. So I'd start with the DOM thing, then try context, and then try this.
Yeah, thank you so much. And the last thing, just wanted to know your opinion, like about like wrapping each component in React Memo, because I had like experience with the team who was doing that for each component. I never really understood why you would want that, but yeah, just wanted to
you
know
don't. So I gotta think of a good metaphor for this. It's like it's kind of like saying my house could burn down, and so I'm going to build a fire station next to it. So like if we did that for every house, we sure would have a lot of fire stations, I guess. But but they may not all be necessary. So this actually kind of applies to the last question where I said, fix the slow render before you fix the re-render. So I would definitely not build a firehouse next to my house just by default, unless I happen to be a place that does like pyrotechnics or something. Like, oh, okay, now maybe it is a good idea to have a fire station next door. So I strongly advise against just throwing memoization all over the place. It's just the problem is that it's really easy to break, and so if you break memoization, you actually have made your application slower by adding use memo or react.memo, because now it is doing the props check in addition to re-rendering your component. And
Right.
if you've broken that in a way where you're passing a new prop every render anyway, then you're just doing that props check for no reason. So it is slower. Yeah, but you may need it for your specific thing. Just make sure that you measure before and after so that you can see that it actually makes a difference.
Yeah, all right. That's all I had. Thank you so much for answering my question. Yeah.
Yep.
Cheers.
Sure thing. Anyone else in Discord or in Zoom have a question before I move over to Discord? Okay, cool. Then we will do Discord coming up right around here. Nick asked, do you have any courses, new courses on the way? I do have some things that I'm planning on that are really exciting and really big, and I'm planning on announcing it next week. But plans are not promises. But yes, really exciting things coming up, and I think you're gonna love it. Just answered this. Okay, so stay tuned. David, this isn't really React related, but algorithm API related for React app. I want to optimize, and by the way, you can ask me anything. It doesn't have to be React related. I don't promise to answer, and I will probably ignore questions that are trolls, but we haven't had any problems with that in office hours, which is nice. Yeah, so feel free to ask me anything and I'll just do my best. When we're talking about algorithms, I'm no elite programmer, so we'll see what we do here. I want to optimize a route between 100 nodes in a fully connected graph. That's already starting to make me be like, ooh, I don't know if I can answer this. This is almost impossible to do with anything but an approximation for, oh, okay, yeah, 10 to 34 steps to optimize. Wow. An API lets me optimize a route between 25 of those nodes. Where would you start and try? Whoa, yeah, no idea. Sorry. Yeah, I haven't the slightest idea of how to do what you're doing. Sorry. I'll do a sweat smiley face. Okay, Roden. Hey, Kent, I know a little here, and actually I like to say, because they may not realize that I'm answering their question. Know a little React also. I have previous experience with Flutter. Can I have advice from you to be good at React show? How should I pursue? Any recommendations or course to learn CSS? Well, okay, I do have, hold on a second. Let me just check this out. Yeah, okay. Wait a second. Did I miss this question? I think I did miss that question. I'll come back to that. Sorry about that. Okay. Yeah, so as far as recommendations, so the best thing that I can suggest, and I guess I'll just update the message or the reply. Start with how to react. Is that right? Pretty sure that's right. Yeah. So go follow that, and then for learning CSS for js.dev, I think. Yeah, there it is. This is an amazing course by an amazing person for learning CSS. Strongly advise that. Yeah, good luck. You'll do great. Okay, let me come up to this question from Amir that I think I missed. So answering this now. Okay. Working third-party library that's supposed to be used within React, it exposes a provider API, but I do need the state outside React too. It sounds like what David said. Yeah, that sounds good to me, David. That's kind of what it's intended to be used for. That's like why that was created, is so that you can synchronize React stuff with something outside of React. So yeah, give that a look. Okay. I may not have answered this one. I remember last week I was like, I gotta go, sorry. So let me see if I can answer this from Parsa. Trying to build a tool. Oh, right. Yeah, I think I did answer that one. Okay, great. So coming back down here now, Benjamin Jacob. I have created a set here. Let me say, answering this now. Okay, created a site in Remix. Yeah, that uses, that was part of a front-end mentor challenge listing all countries in the world. Whoa! Now I have it done, but the load time is very long. I was looking to implement skeleton UI, make it better while staying server rendered, but can't get it to work. I had to look at the Defer API streaming, but did not work for me either. How would you go about it? Okay, so let's take a look. We've got our app, we've got routes, we've got country ID. Okay, so here, so here we are actually waiting for the country. I'm guessing that's not the slow part though. Probably the index where we list all of them, maybe? Is that the slow part? So it doesn't look like we're using the Defer API anywhere. The Defer API is how you would approach this. So it all comes back to what Ryan was talking about with regard to levers. Ryan, Florence, Reactathon, YouTube. I've searched for this before. Yep. When to fetch. Great talk. So I would suggest looking at that. But he talks about levers. And actually, you know what? I have already got this. Here we go. Where you can decide, like, do I care more about having a better time to first byte, or more about reducing content layout shift? If you have a better time to first byte, then you can have loading spinners and everything, so you don't have to wait for all the data. The Defer API is what enables that. But you're trading off the content layout shift because you got loading spinners, and when the data comes in, layout shift. So there's a trade-off there, but it sounds like you have decided you'd rather have spinners than wait, which I think is reasonable. Here, and actually, let's take a look at this. So it is taking a while, and then we get all of those countries. If we go, so yeah, this is fast once you get it, because I'm guessing it's all client. Yeah, you're not updating the URL or anything. I wonder, yeah, and all of that is client side also. Fancy. So yeah, I would say I mean, for one, it would be pretty cool if you could make this update the URL, and then your loader will take those into account in what it sends back. Then you could like share a direct link to this list of countries, which would be cool. But yeah, and like you don't even need state for that. You just, this is a form. You might need an event handler to trigger this to update the URL, but you still don't need state. You just update the search params. Still, anyway, it's kind of cool. So yeah, with regard to your question, if you want to make it so that the initial page load doesn't take forever, because yeah, that does take some time, there are a couple of options. For you could totally cache this. You could put it in even an in-memory cache that you keep updated. Like what I would do, well, you're on Vercel, so you couldn't do an in-memory cache because serverless doesn't do in-memory. That's too bad. You might still be able to manage it, because I think AWS and others like kind of keep the server up in the background for a little bit. You could also put a CDN in front of the particular or in front of your route, and with shared cache headers, and have the CDN send back the data. So there's like some caching strategies you could use here to make this a lot faster. If you do decide to try the in-memory cache route, then LRU cache is what you're looking for. It's great. And then like it even has a stale while revalidate sort of thing. Where is it called? Stale. Allow stale. There you go. So that way the update happens behind the scenes, so nobody ever gets a slow response, which is pretty cool. But again, you might be limited because you're on serverless environment. So you could cache it in like a Redis cache or something too. I think it might actually work. Maybe not. I don't know. But yeah, so then if you don't want to cache it and you just want to do the deferred thing, then I would suggest looking at where is it? It is remix defer something. Where is it? Implement it. Okay, we'll find it. It's in the pull requests. Defer. The real implementation of deferred. Here it is. And if you look at files changed and go to docs, you're looking for streaming probably. I clicked it. There we go. So this is what you want. That will explain how to use the APIs and all that stuff. So, and then of course you need to use the defer tag on npm. So npm remix run server runtime, and there is defer. Where is it? Defer. Yeah, there it is. Deferred. So you use that for all of your remix dependencies, and then you should be able to use deferred. So there you go. Hopefully this gets released pretty soon. I know we're kind of focused on releasing the new router, but yeah, good luck. Hope that helps. Okay. Now Benjamin, answering this now. Following internal discussions, the company I work for, I am in charge of building to build a proof of concept with Remix to create some sort of website as a service solution. Okay, the goals are to offer an additional service to our current customers, a simple website solution with some customization, and have a one solution for all approach, so it's easy to maintain for us. Interesting. So it's like a website builder. Okay. First idea is use Nginx on top of Remix by pure reflex. I never worked with Nginx in the past, but I know this is a go-to solution when you need to map proxy. Okay. Hitting domain.com would lead to routes domain ID behind the scenes. I understand from Remix community, this did not work. Yeah, I'm not sure how what the request object would look like when it comes in. But when it gets to the client side, it's going to look at the URL. So that, yeah, that's not gonna work unless you don't hydrate, I suppose, which is like an option. But I don't know what the request object is going to look like if you're proxying. Yeah, I'm not sure. Current idea is to host the app on fly, manage SSL certificates for every customer's domain, use request URL to extract the domain and use it as the customer ID so I can deliver the right. Yeah. Is it scalable? Yeah, probably not super. I mean, it is, but like there'd be a lot of custom stuff you'd have to write to make that work. Like you create a new fly instance for every well, or yeah, I don't even know how you would manage SSL certificates on fly. Looks like there's no limit, but I don't know if they have an API for that, but I suppose they do. They're not too hacky to use request URL rather than the URL parameter as suggested by. I'm not sure what you. Oh, I see. Yeah, I guess I have some uncertainty here just because so you're saying I've got routes domain ID, and then you just use fly to have, like, you'd have an individual fly app that you deploy all of these. I'm confused. request.url to extract the domain and use it as the customer ID. Oh, I see. So what you're suggesting is instead of doing routes domain ID, you would actually just have it be like routes index or whatever, and then determine what the customer ID is based on the domain. That's fine. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. That totally makes sense. We plan on onboarding 50 plus clients from day one, 20,000 customers to convince. So yeah, it does need to be sustainable. Yeah, that one's that's a little tricky. I feel like you'd probably be happiest with Nginx. Mostly I say that because I feel like managing SSL certificates for every domain would be annoying. But if you feel comfortable doing this, then this seems like pretty straightforward. There's nothing wrong with using request.url to get the domain. In fact, I do that quite a bit for local development. So like when you go here and you say you want to connect to your Discord, well, I don't want to disconnect. But yeah, if you wanted to connect to your Discord, I have the redirect URL be localhost when I'm local, and the kncdos.com when I'm in production. But I don't just say if in production, then kncdos.com. Like I get what the URL is or what the domain is from request.url. So there's nothing wrong with that. I totally do it myself. So if you're comfortable with this piece, that's just a big unknown for me. Honestly, Nginx is a big unknown for me too. I just know that a lot of people do that. But if you're cool with this, then I think that sounds fine. I don't see any problem with that. So anyway, good luck. I hope you are successful. I just see that you joined. Is there any other context or follow-up questions that you have, Benjamin?
Hi. No, actually, you understood pretty well what was my issue. Indeed, the idea was to reuse the same Remix application for every website we will have. And yeah, the difference will be in the database, the content, etc. And so it was to reuse the same remix. And yes, indeed, the domain will be the key to gather the information from the database. But yeah, the SSL question is, I think I will just ask a question on the community of Fly to see if there is a main issue on that.
Yeah, but, that sounds good. The Fly community is pretty responsive. So
yes, there are. Yeah, thank you for that.
Okay, thanks, Benjamin. Good luck. Okay, great. So we've gotten down a couple of these. Kishore, like to ask about hooks. Do they get called only once? You have an article. Yeah, so wait, different ways of, okay, these are two questions. So answering this now. Hooks get called every render. So the answer to the first question is no, they will get called every render. As far as an article on different ways of passing data from child to parent, that actually is kind of related to what Alex was asking about earlier with this use descendant stuff. Passing data from, I don't have an article about this, but for passing data from the child to the parent, you can pass in a callback. I can't answer this in a general with a general answer because it depends on what you're trying to do. But a callback is the most common way for passing data from the child to the parent. You could also pass a ref, and then the child could set a value on the ref via use imperative handle, which is like the official way to do that. Yeah, that's pretty much. And then of course you can go the context route that we were talking about with Alex earlier. So good luck on that. Let's see, Murat rewrote Angular's Tour of Heroes in React with everything I learned from Epic React using TS. Cool. That's exciting. I actually never went through that tutorial myself, even though I was very into the whole Angular scene. Hopefully you didn't have to rewrite any of the Cypress tests because those should all be the same. But let's see. I'm guessing this is a React Scripts app, but let's just find that first. So we've got a JSON server going on, and React Scripts. Okay, cool. So we can go to source index. That's our entry. And yep, React Scripts, Web Vitals, all that stuff. Here's our app. Using React Query. Okay, cool. In the very near future, you can use React Router version 6.4 next week. I'm pretty sure is when that's going to get released. And then you won't need React Query, and the router will take care of it for you. It's amazing. But yeah, for now, we've got our routes defined. That all looks fine to me. And if we go to our, yeah, hold on a second. Let me look at that again. So we've got, okay, so you want to navigate from the root route to the heroes route. So yeah, that should not be landed on explicitly. I actually do the same thing in the Bookshelf app. Bookshelf.lol should go to list. But the way I do that is using the server redirects. So that way you get proper redirects for search engines and browsers, the way that they do that rather than doing it with JavaScript. Let's see, where's that? Here's this redirects file. So slash will take them to slash list. And that's just the way that Netlify works. It depends on where you're hosting this. So anyway, but yeah, so then we've got heroes, we have the about page, and then our 404 page. Yeah. Okay, let's go to heroes. That's heroes. Where is it? Heroes. Here. Yeah, that's the only export is that. We've got our state for showing the modal. Hero to delete. And use delete hero. Use get heroes. Though I'm guessing those are all hooks that are coming from React Query. Yeah, all just React Query stuff. Mm-hmm. Okay, yep, interesting. Yeah, man. You should look at, I mean, this looks great. I don't see anything wrong with this. I would suggest, that's interesting. So one question that I would have is why use Axios when you have React Query? You could probably get rid of that. It doesn't look like you're actually using it. So yeah, delete it, I guess. But yeah, I would suggest if you want to go on to the next thing, try to migrate this to the React Router 6.4. There's a pre-release for it, and you'll find the docs at React Router. If you go to dev, this is all the docs for the new router. And in particular, you're looking for the data browser router, which will allow you to use the loaders and actions. And you can just delete a silly amount of your code, which is awesome. So, but from like what I can see there, I didn't see anything wrong. It all looks pretty good. So well done. Okay, sweet. Thybut. I'm Thybout. You can correct me. Oh, you're here. Can you pronounce your name for me so I can say it right?
Yes, hello, it's Thibaut.
Thibaut. Okay, thank you. I was way off. I'll read your question. You can fill in any context that is needed. Is there any remix auth example with auth OAuth 2? I'm stuck trying to implement that using remix auth OAuth 2. Yeah, I'm afraid that I don't know anything about remix auth. I've never used it myself. I know like a little bit about it. But yeah, certainly OAuth 2 is always like a thing that I just like make it work and then run away. Like I don't understand it very well. I think the last time I did it was like several years ago as well. So I don't think that I'm going to be able to help here a lot, especially with a PR that changes 10,000 lines. Oh, okay. That's your yarn lock. That's changing there. But yeah, I don't think that I'm going to be much help here. I'm afraid. I'm sorry.
Oh,
is there like a specific piece of the PR that you want me to look at? Because maybe if there's something specific, then I might be able to help.
It's just the out file .tsx on the left. I took it from the documentation, but yes, I don't know.
Yeah, sorry. Once we get into the authenticator login, this authenticator authenticate stuff, yeah, that's all remix auth, and I don't know that. Sorry.
Okay, that's okay. Thanks.
But I will tell you that while I do hand roll my own authentication for my website, if I were doing OAuth 2, I would 100% use remix auth. So I think that you're on the right path. I'm afraid I can't help too much. But hopefully you can get some help in the remix Discord if you haven't already tried that.
Okay, I will try. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, sweet. Sweet. All right. Thanks, everybody. This is good. I've got to go now. So happy to answer more questions on the Call Kent podcast. So feel free to, if you have questions that can be asked and answered over audio, even if you do have a little code, like I can pull it up and I can describe it and people can look at it in the notes and stuff. Not a lot, but maybe a little bit. But yeah, ask here. And then also I should mention that the KCD Discord bot is getting a major overhaul. And so like onboarding experience is going to be completely different. It'll involve like getting an account on my website and connecting your Discord that way, and various other things. So look forward to that. It should be probably next week, maybe even today, possibly, where I'll change a bunch of things. One of those is that the KCD Office Hours, like the whole meetups feature, is going away. KCD Office Hours will stay. I'll probably move that into KCD. But I think I'll open up the events feature. So I don't know if it's closed actually, but if somebody wants to do their own meetup or something, they just make an event. Another thing that is going to be going away or changing is the clubs feature. I think what I'll do is I'll make a forum and you just post to the forum if you're looking to start a club or whatever. Yeah, forums kind of improve things like an enormous deal for this Discord. And then let's see what else. Oh yeah, the thank you command, I think we're probably going to remove. We might add it back later, but people don't seem to use that too much. And commands in general are going to be a lot better. Like check this out. So this is where I'm testing this out, and you can actually do, oh, my bot's not running right now because it's only local for now. But yeah, you can run a bunch of commands. We get yeah, so I've got this search command that it's so cool. Anyway, I don't need to talk about it too much right now. It'll come out really soon. Things are going to be a lot better. The bot will actually work in threads and stuff too. Unfortunately, Discord.js and Discord actually doesn't have an API for forums yet, but in the future that will improve better as well. So anyway, thanks everybody for hanging out. It was fun, and I hope you all have a marvelous day. I believe, let's see, next week, yes, I will be around next week. So we'll see you next week. Thanks, everybody.